Okay, it is Monday, March 3rd. We've got baseball this month. It's March Madness this month. We've made it. The long wait since the Super Bowl. We've made it here. It is freezing this morning. Freezing. Yet we're here. We're going to play an outdoor sport in about 3 weeks from now. We're going to be playing outdoors. So it's 24 degrees I see right now, but we have made it to the warm months, or so I think we did. We have. This is the Early Game Podcast. Listen to the show in the mornings on your commute, whenever and wherever, so you can be a part of today's sports conversations. Let's go. Okay, so we start in the NFL, where we had significant news over the weekend with the Combine here, with teams trying to make decisions about how they will fill their deficiencies. We had some developments in some of the gaping holes and some of the gaping storylines heading into the offseason. Now, last offseason we had big drama when it came to 49ers wide receivers. What was going to happen with them? Were they going to trade them? But here we are, 2025. And it didn't take so long for the 49ers to move on from one of their top wide receivers who they have relied on for production over the last couple of years, and that is Deebo Samuel, who over the weekend was traded to the Washington Commanders for a fifth-round pick. Washington retains $17.5 million for 2025, all of the salary. And this was a long time coming. It was a move that both sides, both teams, were pretty much inevitably going to come to some sort of decision like this over the offseason. The Commanders were going to add a top piece, and Deebo is perfect for them. He is so versatile offensively. They can pair him up. They can line him up as a receiver opposite Terry McLaurin. He is an obvious running threat. He's a Swiss Army knife. He is new school NFL football. He's the opposite. It's like I think of a guy like Alvin Kamara who sort of reimagined what running backs can do by being a receiver. And we saw so many running backs develop into receiving threats. But Deebo, I think, is the rare receiver who is the opposite of that, who is a receiver who also poses a massive running threat. This is not an X's and O's podcast, but that being said, the Commanders got better over the weekend. Plain and simple. Talent-wise, better. Schematically, the more threats you have in football, it's as simple as that, the easier time you have. The more creative you can get. So Jaden Daniels now has another weapon in his back pocket to play with here next season. And again, when defenses need to prepare for a team with two receivers like Deebo and Terry McLaurin, it's a whole different ballgame. Now you need two top cornerbacks to figure that out. And worst case, you're bringing more attention off of Scary Terry. You just are. Simple as that. And with Austin Eckler getting older, they add more to their running game now to the Commanders. So it is a good fit for them. And now this offense looks better than it did before the weekend. And in an NFC East where obviously they have the Eagles to compete with, it is an uphill battle for them. They need any help they can get. Look, I loved the Commanders going into last season. And I love how they operate. They are brute forcing their way to relevancy. I love that for them. I know there's a strong Commanders contingency that listens to this show. I love this move for them. For only a 5th round pick, this is a great, great move. The question is, how much more do you need to catch up to the Eagles? Year 1, you didn't need to get all the way to the Eagles. You didn't. Year 1, under Adam Peters, under Dan Quinn, with Jaden Daniels as a rookie. All you needed to do was step into relevance. Check. You did that. Now, year 2, the pressure gets a little bit higher. It mounts a little more. And so Deebo's a great first step. You needed to improve. You did. No ifs, ands, or buts. Because you can't go the next 10 years constantly being the second fiddle to the Eagles, or if there's any other team in the NFC East that emerges. There has to be some sort of relevancy in the sense that you need to be a top team at some point. And so good for them. Keep moving forward. Keep improving. And hopefully they will be able to win the division soon. Now, on the other side of this, you have the 49ers. And frankly, they have just fallen into wide receiver drama abyss, right? Deebo drama, Brandon Ayuk drama. Everyone seems to be drama over there. And so for them, this is a clean slate. There is talk that they also intend on fielding offers for Brandon Ayuk. So they will clearly be trying to clean slate, start fresh, and build something new around Brock Purdy. Whether that's the right decision to continue with Brock Purdy is a different story. We could talk about, we spoke, actually, the first ever show of this glorious podcast was about Brock Purdy. And so the question is, for the 49ers, is Brock Purdy the long-term answer? And now, where do they go from here? How much rebuilding do they need to do? What are they going to do to rebuild? Okay, let's move on. Enough about Deebo, because we also had one of the storylines we've been speaking about for the last week plus, pretty much since the Super Bowl, is Matthew Stafford. And we did have a resolution on the Matthew Stafford front. And that is that Stafford is going to stay in Los Angeles. They restructured the deal. They're a little bit fishy on what the restructured deal looks like. Sounds like it's going to be somewhere in the 2 years, $100 million range. He was only going to be paid $27 million this next year. So now it seems like he's going to be getting paid more like $50 million next year to remain the Rams quarterback. Look, clean, safe for every side in this deal. Stafford gets to stay in Los Angeles, where clearly he wants to play. He stays in the system that has worked for him. Sean McVay keeps his quarterback that works for him. Look, the Raiders would have been a fine fit for him. Playing under Pete Carroll would have been fine. Would they have been great? No. There are too many obstacles to overcome in the AFC. So he would have gone to the Raiders. He would have maybe snuck into the playoffs and probably gone eliminated in the first round. With the Rams, he has a little bit more upside over there, and he knows what he's getting. So that's an option off the board for the Raiders. Now on to the big elephant in the room. The Giants were pushing so hard for Matthew Stafford. This was the guy that they wanted. And so the question is, where do the New York Giants go from here? What is it that they will do at the quarterback position? And right after they announced that Matthew Stafford was going to be staying in LA, this brought me so much joy. So much joy. The reports came out that there is heavy mutual interest between Aaron Rodgers and the New York Giants. And remember, with Aaron Rodgers comes Devontae Adams. So essentially, if the Giants decide to go this route, they would have Rodgers, Devontae Adams, added on to Malik Neighbors and whoever they take in the first round. Where do I even begin? If you're the Giants, go. You don't have to look far. You don't have to go look far and wide to see what Aaron Rodgers is going to be like on a team like yours. Underdeveloped, undermanned. This Aaron Rodgers is the death sentence for the New York Giants. I thought about this a lot. He is the death sentence for the Giants. It's a carbon copy situation of Aaron, specifically offensively. What the Giants are planning on doing is a carbon copy of what he had with the Jets. They have Malik Neighbors. The Giants do. The Jets had Garrett Wilson. The Jets couldn't protect him. No offensive line. What do the Giants have? Look, I thought, when I first saw this, I said, good for, this is fine for the Giants. Fine for them. Don't go draft Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders. Don't convince yourself that you want those two guys if they're not the guys that you actually think you value. If deep down you don't think you value Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders, don't go get them. But you're putting Aaron Rodgers back in the same position he was in with the Jets, in the same stadium, in the same state. You're putting him right back where he was, where he could not pull it off. And it was the first time in his career, frankly, that he was unable to succeed. I understand wanting to bring in a veteran. And I'm being honest, I 180'd on this. Initially, I thought this was a good idea for them. But the more I thought about it, the more it doesn't make sense. You have actual precedent that this does not work. Now, there's no risk associated with it. So if you want to just take the gamble, I get that. That makes sense. Don't convince yourself, though, that this is going to work. It won't necessarily. And there's good reason to think it won't. Look, I want to see Aaron Rodgers go off into the sunset. I want to see him have success in the back end of his career. We witness great players. We want to see them have great careers fully. We don't like to see great players tail off at the end of their careers. That's what made the end of Tom Brady's career so amazing, was that he was able to have so much success by the end. It's sad when we see elite players not perform at peak performance by the end. I hope LeBron James goes out on top. And it's sad for Aaron Rodgers that if he retired today, this would be part of his legacy, his Jets career. And so if he goes to the Giants, what is that going to do for him and his legacy? If he can't perform, where there's a good chance that he will not be able to. Now, what's the alternative? I don't even know for the Giants what the alternative is. But to tell yourself this will be successful, it's hard. It's hard to make that argument. Is it worth it? This is the path where I see it's worth it. Is if you could sign Rodgers, get a stud in the first round at 3 overall. So if Travis Hunter is there, you draft him. Abdul Carter, if he's there, absolutely. One of those two guys. If you can get one of those two guys in the first round and say, here's our veteran Aaron Rodgers, a low-risk move. Take a gamble on him. And then draft Jackson Dart, draft Quinn Ewers later on. I'm fine with that. Let one of those two guys sit behind Rodgers and learn a little bit. But if the plan is to sign Rodgers and then have Cam Ward or Shedeur Sanders sit behind him, I mean, that's what I call fan malpractice. It's fan malpractice. It's where your fans know this is the wrong move. Every single last one of them know it's the wrong move. But for some reason, the general manager convinced himself that it's the right one. It's fan malpractice. It's where the fan knows best. It's so obvious that would be a failure of an idea, and that's what's floating around. What's floating around is that they might do something like that. So again, you have to look at this from two lenses. One, from the standpoint of being successful with Rodgers as your quarterback if you're the Giants. It's hard to convince yourself that they'll be successful. Lens 2 is it's a low-risk move. So if you want to do it, fine. But you need to be smart about how you're going about the draft. Don't take guys that you're not confident can be good. Can it work for them? Sure. But you have to be smart about it. Okay, let's move on. We're going to go to the NBA now. And talking about early shows, one of the topics we have followed at length on this podcast is Joel Embiid. Last week I said that it's in his best interest, and the team's best interest, frankly, for them to just shut him down. And that is what they did. Embiid is going to miss the remainder of the season. Shams Charania, writing for ESPN, the Philadelphia 76ers said Friday that star Joel Embiid will miss the remainder of the regular season as he and the team continue to look for a long-term solution for a troublesome left knee that has plagued his season. Embiid has increased swelling in his knee following a loss to the Brooklyn Nets on Saturday night and underwent a new round of imaging Monday to determine why his knee has not responded well to this treatment protocols and has received this season. The 76ers and Embiid consulted with dozens of doctors and specialists to determine the best path forward for the 7-footer. That article was written on Friday. And so for the 76ers, this was, in my mind, the only move. It was the only thing that they could do. Joel Embiid is, when healthy, when playing, when he is at his peak, he is so good. He is a top player. He is the process. And so the question is, how do you get him back to that? When you when you're in it, when you're in all this mess, in all this drama, you're thinking to yourself, let's get this guy on the floor. How do we get him on the floor now? But you take a step back. When you can take a step back and you can say, what can we do so that we can maximize his value for the rest of his tenure with the Philadelphia 76ers? It's then easier to say, let's let Joel Embiid sit the rest of the season. And I said this last week. He should sit this season and next. Get right. Don't even think about playing. And then you can maximize the back end of his career. He's 30 years old now. Have him come back when he's 32 and give you value. Figure out a way that you can maximize his value on the back end of his career. And if you keep pushing him to play, eventually he just won't be able to go anymore. So whatever you need to do, do it. Now, they were saying that they might need to break his hip in order to fix his... I don't even understand that. But there might be some dramatic and intense procedures that he is considering and might need to perform in order to get back healthy. Joel Embiid, do whatever you need to do. This is coming after I ripped him for weeks about not playing, about load management. And I'm not going to walk back that position. It sounds like I'm walking it back. I'm not walking it back. Because I respect it more that you're transparent about why you're missing time, why you're load managing. And I respect it more that you're trying to get healthy. Because the visual now is that Joel Embiid is trying to make it so that he doesn't have to rest anymore at the clip that he needed to rest this past season. And frankly, over his whole career. And so now, again, I think the path is simple for Joel Embiid. Sit out the rest of this season. Sit out all of next season. Get whatever surgery is best for you to come back in 2026, 2027. Is that what it will be? Wow. 2026, 2027. That season. And be a top performer in the league again. That's what people want to see. That's what will make the NBA great, and that's what makes the Philadelphia 76ers great. Okay, let's move on to our last topic of the day. And again, we've spoken so much about New York baseball, and here we are again. They seem to be pretty much the only injury news or relevancy so far this offseason, which is good. We've had all the top free agents have signed. There haven't been any, crazy significant injuries so far this spring. But the first domino to fall for Yankees injuries was Giancarlo Stanton, and people could have seen that coming. He has not been able to really stay healthy over his career. But the next domino to fall now is Luis Gil, who was reported last week has discomfort in his shoulder. He's going to head for MRIs. And that is concerning. You never want to hear about a shoulder injury or shoulder discomfort, and especially from the AL Rookie of the Year. Not what you want to hear. Now, and it's interesting for the Yankees because they have a big storyline for them this offseason was that they had 6 starting pitchers and that they were not sure what they wanted to do with Marcus Stroman. First, there were reports that they were going to move into the bullpen, and he then reportedly said he would not move to the bullpen. And it has been a bit of a bitter relationship between the two sides so far this spring. But now, Marcus Stroman finds himself with a spot potentially in the rotation depending on what this injury looks like for Luis Gil. And it's not like Stroman's having a good spring. He is getting knocked around. He pitched poorly yesterday. Fans were hoping that they'd trade Stroman. They'd get value for him. The issue with, and I get it. You want a big value in baseball right now are pitchers who can eat innings for you at some sort of quality, some sort of solid quality. They don't need to be perfect. Just eat innings, get through innings for your team. And Stroman provides that. He would, if he's the 4th or 5th starter on an average team, he is performing better than whatever you have on your roster now. But it seems like nobody wants him. He comes with baggage. He has drama with him. He says controversial things. And so at least for whatever the Yankees wanted back, nobody wanted him. But now he finds himself with a spot in the rotation for the Yankees. A spot where he can prove himself once again. Assuming Luis Gil's injury puts him on the IL to start the season. So he will have an opportunity with the Yankees. And he will have an opportunity with the Yankees. I heard a great line. You're playing for playing time on your own team, but there are 29 other teams who have access to watch your games. So Stroman comes in this season. If Gil is hurt, he comes in trying to prove that he can play for the Yankees and have a spot with the Yankees, the team that he signed with. But he is also putting on a showcase for the rest of the league to potentially trade for him mid-season, where pitching is so coveted, especially at the trade deadline. Okay, that's a show. Thanks for listening. Follow on X, follow on Spotify, like, comment, subscribe on YouTube. This is the Early Game Podcast. We'll be back tomorrow with whatever happened today in sports. Have a wonderful day.